Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Welcome to the Water Cooler. So the Water Cooler is a podcast about marketing, sales, and technology. We have over 100 episodes on YouTube and iTunes, so be sure to check out some of our previous episodes. Each week, we focus on bringing you guys advice that works. Now, this week's show, we're going to be talking about how to grow your business through content marketing, specifically blogging. Now, one of my favorite authors, speakers, business leaders, Tom Peters, once famously said, if you're not blogging, you're an idiot. And I actually posted this mastermind group like 5 years ago, Chris, and said, does anybody agree with the statement? And the vast majority of people actually didn't. And what we're here to do today is to actually prove Tom Peters right and say, if you don't have a blogging strategy, not as an individual, but as a company, you're really missing out on a massive opportunity. My name is Jimmy Mackin. I'm joined by my co-host, co-founder of Curator, Chris Smith. Before we get into the topics, though, today, Chris, let's catch everybody up on this week's news. First up.
Yeah, it's exciting. We do a first segment called First Call, right? Cheers to that. And we do a quick rapid fire apps, technologies, ideas that are worth listening to. We'll do that for about 10 minutes, and then it's blogging for bucks. It's funny because Tom Peters, Jimmy, is not a young man.
No, he's not. Tom's probably in his mid-70s now.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to convince you by the end of this episode that you're actually not making as much money as you could by not blogging. It isn't just that you don't have time. If we can show you in the next 30 minutes how to really blog for business, you probably wouldn't ever say, I don't have time to make money. So I love that Tom Peters is that passionately about it. Linda Davis is a very passionate blogger. This doesn't have to be a millennial topic. So let's get into it. First call. What's the first one, Jimmy?
Well, I switched it up on you. So you are now an official investor in this company?
No, not yet. Not yet.
that's not public yet, because I feel like that's the reason it's on the first call here. But our buddies at GoPro are releasing a new product here. Let's give a breakdown of what it is.
Sure. So everybody's familiar with GoPro, which is the camera. The extreme athletes use it. But their stock has been plummeting, and so the reason I would invest is because it's like super low, and if they get an acquisition or if almost anything happens, it's going to go up again. But they did something really smart. So they acquired a little app that used to be called Replay, and they had their team build a video editing app for the iPhone and Android called Quik, Q-U-I-K. And it's a beautiful interface. It literally makes creating a video worth sharing and worth being proud about several clicks. For those of you that are familiar with Haiku Deck, and like when you build a Haiku Deck, how simple and beautiful it is to do that compared to trying to use PowerPoint. That would be kind of how I would explain, building a beautiful video that is actually quality. You may upload a terrible video into it, but the transitions, the effects, the sort of finished product that you can create in seconds, implications for home tours, implications for team bio videos, lots of uses, Q-U-I-K. I love it.
So it's handicapping for amateur videographers.
Exactly. And here's the second one that we're going to talk about in First Call, which is something, Jimmy, I know you're passionate about, so I'll set you up on it. So there's something in our world is technology, guys, called SaaS, which is SaaS, which is software as a service. Okay. And so software as a service is everything from your CRM to really even you could consider Uber, as software as a service. If you have a website that you pay for each month, right? That's software as a service. But Jimmy, you're big on PaaS, which is an emerging trend that every real estate agent and every small business owner can benefit from.
Yeah.
P is people as a service. So what is people as a service, and how can people listening take advantage of it right away?
Yeah, sure. I think the best way to describe it is actually something you and I talked about offline, which is as business owners, we generally, as we begin to scale, we generally have to hire more people to basically take over the less money-making activities so we can focus on the things that are going to help our business grow. And there's actually a difficult transition at every single point between every single hire that you have to sort of identify. And one of the things that's interesting about people as a service is that this can be that bridge, Chris, between hiring a full-time employee. And what's fascinating about it is that every single activity, task that you can think of has a deep specialty available online from an expert. So whether you want coaching on accounting, whether you want, Clarity.fm is a good example of that. You want to learn about, let's say, lead generation, or you want to learn about really anything you could possibly think of. I'm trying to come up with a couple of examples here.
Why don't you use Ruby, the receptionist?
Yeah, Ruby's a perfect one. Yeah.
Yeah, you use Ruby because that's one we use, we love, and I actually think it's a great play for a busy agent. Sure. So talk about Ruby.
Yeah, so Ruby essentially answers all of our phone calls at Curator. It's part of the reason we're 25 people, we're remote, or we're across 3 different countries, but we want to make sure every single time a customer calls us, for 14 hours a day, some human being picks up the phone. So this is a great example as people as a service. You're hiring a receptionist on demand, basically. And the amount you pay them is based on the amount you use them, which is fundamentally different than the way you pay an employee, which is typically a flat cost plus commission. So people as a service is a new trend that we've been following. It started with TaskRabbit. Clarity came onto the scene, but there's microservices like Ruby the Receptionist and Coders.
Think about this. Think about what would it do for your business from a customer service, word of mouth, retention, lifetime value perspective? What would it do for your business if every person that ever had a question, at least a person answered and talked to them and then relayed that to you? So Ruby's a great example. We're going to take calls here in about 10 more minutes. So if you're trying to call in, we're just going to keep ignoring that until about the 15 or 20 minute mark. The next thing, and by the way, you had TaskRabbit on the list, which is featured in PeopleWork, the book I co-authored a few years back. And TaskRabbit, I love what you said. Like before, you'd have to hire a person to do everything. So you would have a handyman, but then he would do kind of everything. Or like as an example, hiring a marketing person, right? So if you hired a marketing person, what would they do? They might blog, they might do Facebook ads for you, they might send emails for you, and they might do lead generation for you. Well, if that's the things they will do, what Jimmy's saying is you can now find one service that does one of those things. You don't have to hire the whole Frankenstein. If you need a specialist, another great place to find people as a service is Upwork, which I've used several times. Used to be called Elance. If you want someone to post Craigslist ads for you, and that's all they ever do for your company, there's a person on Upwork that'll do that. So I love this kind of trend because as a small business owner, we don't want to have to shell out $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 salaries if we don't have to, right? So if we can get a specialist, I love it. The next thing is podcasting, Jimmy. This is a podcast. James Festini helps us with our podcast. We do the show here. Then it goes on YouTube. Then it goes on iTunes. We're bullish on podcasting. James, if you're watching, last week's show is not up yet, so that's not good. We want to get these up as quick as we can for people. But Jimmy, talk quickly about a couple of the podcasts or one podcast particular that you think our audience should be listening to.
Well, this is one that Chris put me onto a little while back called Startups. And I listened to season 2, which was awesome. And they just came out with season 3. And what it really does is it profiles what it's like to run a business at all different stages of the cycle. The early stages, the growth stage, the scale stage. And I personally feel a lot better. It's like sort of therapeutic, Chris, to listen to this because the same problems you have, whether it's issues with your partners or problems with plateauing or problems hiring, you realize these are universal problems that entrepreneurs have, regardless of what your product is, regardless of what your service is. So one of the things that I think is important here to understand when you're listening to a podcast is just try to, and this is what I love about Startups, is that it helps you realize you're not alone, which is a little bit touchy-feely for the water cooler, but let's be real. That's kind of what we get out of it.
Yeah, it's great. So Startup, just go to iTunes, usually in the top 10 of business at all times, but just search Startup. If you've never heard of it, you're going to love it because there's 3 seasons now. But season 3 just came out. Great recommendation. I'm going to give a quick pro tip. For those of you that are doing Facebook ads, digital marketing, internet lead gen, I have a podcast I love called Perpetual Traffic, which is from the guys over at Digital Marketer. And it's such a focused podcast on one topic. It's great. So we're going to definitely recommend that one as well for people. Digital Marketer. The podcast is actually called Perpetual Traffic.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up question to that. What's sort of the big takeaways from Perpetual Traffic? Is it just all about getting traffic? Is that the basic idea?
Yeah, most of it is focused on Facebook ad hacks. So
Yeah.
the way that you use image, where the link goes, case studies around how somebody got tons of leads at a low cost per lead, kind of like, Conversion Cast, but for Facebook advertising. It's really good stuff. They've had Frank Kern on. It's like this crazy big time internet marketer. And what was cool is I was hearing Frank describe his funnel, and it sounded just like the Conversion Code funnel. Not that he stole it. He's been talking about this way longer than me. But that idea of like a magic million, a chunky middle, and a sweet spot, and then how your ads should correlate to those things. Really great stuff. So I would definitely take a look at that. The next thing here, Jimmy, real quick, and then we're going to get into talking about blogging. We're going to bring on a couple guests. There was something I shared in the group this week. Yeah. And a lot of our audience is real estate agents. And, they sort of overall, I think it's fair to say, have kind of a love-hate relationship with Zillow. Some people hate them. Some people love them. Some people hate them and love them, because they bring up challenges, but they also get them a lot of income. They actually give them leads that make them money. So they love them. So one thing that I thought was just funny is a lot of agents have to overcome the Zestimate objection. Zillow says my house is worth 1.8 million and you're telling me to list it at 1 million. Like, you're an idiot. That computer program's smarter than you. Like, who wouldn't think that? You know what I mean? Like, if the value is higher in that case. So what was just, semi-ironic and people in the group got a kick out of it was that the CEO of Zillow, Spencer, sold his home, and the Zestimate was like 40% too high. It's estimated at almost 2 million, and it actually came in closer to 1 million. And so, if you go to Zillow, this is a quick pro tip, and Jay Thompson, who's going to come on, works for Zillow. He actually talks about this all the time. If you go to Zillow,
I love Jay's reaction.
You go to the footer, okay? You go to the footer. There's a little thing that says like Zestimates, and you kind of drill down into the accuracy, but you can drill down into the values per county and how off they are. And they publicly display that. It's not super easy to find. There's definitely a chart worth cropping. And there's an image of like Spencer's Zestimate compared to his sold price, which a lot of people said they're going to use, in their talk track. But anyway, I think it's one of those things where one thing to just keep in mind is like, how accurate are you? How often is your list to sold price 100% or perfectly the same? How often is your CMA? Exactly the amount that the other one was. So anyway, we thought that was interesting. Jimmy, last one here really quick. Then we're going to get into all the blogging pro tips. 30-minute show, 17 minutes left. We'll take callers in about 10 minutes. There's a new website you're bullish on called basically I Want Your Email. It's moneylab.co/email. I'll put that in the chat for the live audience. We'll put it in the show notes. So what is this site all about?
Yeah. So I always call Chris the king of pop-ups, because Chris loves all these little widgets that sort of pop up on a website to capture people's email, because he's a sales guy at heart. One of the things I thought was fascinating about this example is that this guy showed, I think his name is Matt, he showed all the different ways you can actually use your website as a lead magnet. Whether it's the drop down from the header, Sumo Me style, whether it's embedding a form directly into the post, whether it's retargeting people who have visited your site with the same type of call to action. And it actually has I probably think 8 different ways in which you can capture an email through a blog post. So one of the things I loved was that as a marketer, you can look at something like this and you can see the extreme, right? This guy's basically showing the extreme end of it and say,
it's like a parody.
It's a parody, exactly. Yeah. But you can look at like, hey, this is like maybe 2 or 3 things I can actually take away from it, which I loved.
It's really well done. Great find. So we're going to get into the blogging and the stats I had, Jimmy. Let me read my stats.
Well, hold on. Let's do a quick plug for our sponsor.
Sure. Quick plug for the sponsor. Sorry. Really quick, we're the sponsor. That's all we got. Curator.com. We work with top producing teams around the US and Canada. We provide help, not hype. Most companies sell logins. We sell help. We help people with their website, with their landing pages, with Facebook, with lead follow-up. But if you go to Curator.com and you click on check availability, or you click on see our platform, you can learn more. If you're interested in a demo, you can email Sarah at Curator.com and just say, hey, I was watching the water cooler. Chris and Jimmy seem like they know what they're talking about. I'd love to take a look in a demo of what you guys sell. So Curator.com. We got a lot of those little buttons there too, Jimmy, like the guy on Money Lab.
There it is. All right, cool. So let's talk about.
By the way, Sarah. Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Sorry, SARAH and then it's Curaytor, Curaytor. Thanks for getting my back there.
Absolutely. Okay. So some of us are analytical people, right? On the call today. Give me the stats behind why we should care about blogging and what the value is.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like, we're not going to blog if it doesn't produce customers. And so we've got systems and procedures, and we've kind of gotten to our rhythm where when we publish a post and we do what we'll talk to you guys about in the next 10 minutes, it always leads to more business. Okay. And so there's some stats from HubSpot. Marketers who prioritize blogging are 13 times more likely to get a positive ROI online. 79% of companies who actually have a blog and use it report a positive ROI from the internet. So like the blog and this ability in a very easy way to create content online, it really should be at the heart of people's strategies. And again, we're not looking from my seat in sales and marketing, we're not looking for number of pages indexed. You know, we don't really care that like blogs have 97% more
you
index
called me out? That was my
I can't
stat
take that down to Wells Fargo. I know. I'm sorry. You should skip that one now. So I mean, I think the stats are compelling. You know, I talked earlier, you know, kind of in related to that, the number one objection is time. And so what we're going to go through is sort of how to define a blogging strategy that makes you money so that you will be excited
talk
about
to me
that
about
time,
that. Let's take a moment here. We're sold on this idea that blogging works, that the idea when it's effective can actually drive up the bottom line. Let's actually talk about what makes great content, because you have a great sort of comparison here. I think it's worth touching.
Yeah. So you have to start off and say, what is great content for my blog and what is bad content? So here's how I define great content and bad content. It's a subtle difference, but everybody should write it down. Great content drives awareness and sales. Bad content drives awareness or sales. If you want to be a great blogger, you have to be able to kill two birds with one stone, because I understand this idea of like jab, 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 right hook, which would just sort of be like awareness, 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 close. I'm not saying that doesn't work, but I'm saying if you want to have great content that you're going to be excited about publishing, it better drive awareness and sales. That to me is where you want to start, and that's what all the other
and just to build on that,
and
there's one thing, because I run operations here at Curaytor, there's one thing that I think about when it comes to content, and we've been working with the marketing team on this, is that when you produce a piece of content, like Chris says, it has to raise awareness that you exist, and in the sense that you have to establish yourself as an authority in that space. It has to sell your services directly. And the third wheel, or the third sort of part of the equation, is can you use that piece of content for the purposes of retention and referral business? In the sense that, can you send it to your past clients in sphere of influence, not just your leads? And if you
that would be the trifecta as well. So let's give a real world example. Jay Thompson's going to come on in a second. Jay, go ahead and call in. And Jay actually used to get a ton of traffic to his Phoenix Real Estate Guy blog by actually using a 4th of July post, right? Where if you wanted to know where to go see the fireworks in and near Phoenix, this guy, Jay Thompson, welcome, he would get, like, what was your most views on that post? Angle, Jay, back when you would do that?
Oh, God. Probably at its peak. 30, 40,000 visitors the day before 4th of July. Oh, yeah.
So 30 to 40,000 pre-social, basically, Jay. Let's be honest. If you would have had Facebook ads, like one of the things I think is a great pro tip is if it's 4th of July, if it's Christmas lights, if you go to Google Trends, google.com/trends, and put in 4th of July fireworks, they will show you the day that those searches trend. So why wouldn't you boost a post in Facebook the 2 days before that? That is a great tip. It's easy to use Google Trends, and you can see exactly when that spike will happen. But the blogging for business, we have a client, Jay, named Lisa Johnson. She's great out in Boston.
The beautiful homes.
Awesome. What's her domain, Jimmy? The beautiful homes.com. She's got a great blog. So what she would do in the 4th of July example would be she would then have listings near those locations as a lead magnet. And then she would also have something potentially like see how homes prices are trending near that location. So the idea is that it's not just the content that builds awareness that's on your site for the 4th of July. It's that you're purposefully linking to landing pages, listings, and the pages that do make you money. So, Jay, what's a great pro tip for the bloggers? Talk a little bit about your blog and how it impacted your business.
I'll answer the second question first. How did it impact my business? It was huge. To be honest, that blog allowed us to open a brokerage. And I'm about 100% sure that if it weren't for the blog and what I did there, I wouldn't be working at Zillow today. So, I mean, it's big.
Tom Peters' advice was right? I mean, Tom Peters, Jimmy talked earlier, like start a blog and start creating content because amazing things can happen, to kind of quote CC Chapman. So Jay, what were some successful strategies, specifics, my friend?
Listings is huge. When I first started, I mean, you got to remember, I started Phoenix Real Estate Guy in 2004 when IDX was barely around, and it typically didn't have features like where you could embed listings underneath a post. So back in the day, I would write a post about a certain neighborhood and I'd drive around and I'd take pictures of it, but that was really all I could do with it. Once IDX solutions got powerful enough or had features that would allow you to embed listings underneath those types of posts, it became huge. And there's posts that I wrote literally 7 or 8 years ago that the people that bought my blog have gone back in and added, homes in this neighborhood type of listings underneath it. And that those things still generate traffic and content.
Yeah, and that's a huge pro tip. If you have a big blog that gets traffic organically through search, but you never put lead magnets or listings or links in those old posts, go to Google Analytics, sort your pages by the most viewed ever, and go re-optimize the ones that get the most traffic. Jimmy, you got a question for Jay?
But I did a post about the Phoenix Real Estate Guy where I actually profiled using the Wayback Machine. I profiled all the iterations you had, remember, over the course of I think 5 years. And I think one of the big takeaways when I was analyzing what you did online was that you were very patient with what you were doing, right? You weren't going for a home run every single time, but you were absolutely committed to progress. And this is actually fundamentally, Chris, speaks to one of the questions we got earlier, is that you can be patient, but you need patience with progress. You need to see these incremental gains. And that's one of the things that you did with the Phoenix Real Estate Guy. The design got better, the content got better, right? Everything just improved over time, which I think is at the essence of every successful blog, is you want to see that progression. You don't want to just start flatline and stay that
Absolutely. Way. I can't count how many design revs and design changes that blog went through, content redesign. I mean, I was always trying to think of new and different things to write about, different ways to display data. No.
But you would never do that without results, Jay. And so let's get one more tip from you, and then we're going to bring on Dustin. If you're watching Dustin Oldfather, Jay, he broke the sales record in his market using a blog, and he spends $100,000 a year on writers and advertising for it. So it's just interesting that you can have a $100K blog budget and out ROI that, but most people can't even put a little elbow grease. So what would be, in your opinion, after all your experience, all the articles you wrote, what is the fastest way to get results for the people that haven't blogged? I know it's a long burn, but what would be an article they could write tomorrow, share on Facebook that might help them?
I'm still to this day a big fan of neighborhood posts. Go into a subdivision, taking some photos and a video and just not writing, I'll use Val Vista Lakes. It's a big subdivision in Phoenix. It's a lakefront community, artificial lake, of course, because it's in the middle of the desert. But, not just say, here's the statistics, X number of homes sold, this is the average home price. Because people I don't want to say they don't care about that, but it's painful to write and it's painful to read. Instead, write about the neighborhood, what living in the neighborhood is like. You know what I'm saying?
Neighborhood pages are great. They index well. It's totally relevant to put listings, solds, open houses on them. And then as you blog about that area, all of a sudden you can add to that page. A lot of people already have beautiful pictures from the area. Real quick pro tip, Airbnb. And it used to be Urban Compass. Now it's just called Compass. If you want to see some of the most beautiful neighborhood pages ever, I'm sure Zillow has some good ones too, Jay. Let me say that. But like Airbnb and Compass have some of the most beautiful neighborhood pages ever. Jay, thank you for calling in, man. We love you. Yep, JT, guys. Follow him on Twitter. Thanks, Jay.
There we go.
All right, we got Dustin calling in, Jimmy. And Dustin is the man I just mentioned, that is spending $100K a year, getting an ROI on that.
I was going to say, we got a 4-minute warning here before we wrap up here. So we'll keep it tight with Dustin.
Yeah. Dustin, can you hear us? Sometimes people can hear before the video turns on. It looks like he's trying to get logged in. We do have fail safes if Dustin can't get on. But Dustin, maybe try hanging up and calling in again. But you're not quite logged all the way on. Try one more time for us.
One thing I want to say just real quickly on Jay.
Here we go.
Jay talked about this idea of the personal touch with your neighborhood pages, and he's absolutely right. If you go to Compass, which I shared in the chat for you guys, if you go to Compass, they describe what it's like to live in the neighborhood. And I live in the north end of Boston, and I go to the neighborhood pages done by national websites, and it doesn't describe in any way, shape, or form what it's like to live in the north end. But you have that unique advantage where you know the local area, and your ability to communicate that through a neighborhood page, I think, is a huge, huge opportunity. It's compass.com, Amir. We just jumped in the chat there.
Yeah, for sure. Dustin, can you hear us? Give us a quick audio check. Maybe we have you on the audio. All right. Yeah, Jimmy, this is what happens. Try again. Yeah, Dustin, if you could try maybe on mobile. I know you're trying on desktop. Try one more time on mobile. We'll try to get you on. Really quickly, Jimmy, what is Dustin's blog? Because honestly, one of the pro tips I have that I didn't even put in the notes is when you find a Phoenix real estate guy blog, when you what is it, the oldfathergroup.com/blog, when you look at weiningerhomes.com, like bookmark those sites, like their Facebook pages, follow them on Twitter so that you're starting to see their content in the future, because that can become a great place for inspiration. And Dustin's blog, they're kind of tackling it from all angles. They have an amazing team. So theoldfathergroup.com/blog. Dustin, can you hear us, buddy? All right. Third time was not.
I think we actually published a blog post actually outlining this. I'm going to drop it into the chat. For those of you who are listening to the replay, if you go to curator.com/blog, you'll see a post that says $100K a year budget. And that's the post that we use to profile Dustin's blog. I think here's my big takeaway, Chris, is that when Tom Peters says, if you don't have a blog, you're an idiot, he's saying you in the sense of your company. And I think if you don't write, you don't like to write, or no one on your team likes to write, you can use another service to actually create content for you. Writer's Access is a good one. Patty Nags up here in Gloucester, Massachusetts, what she does is she actually contacted a local writer from Patch who actually publishes content on her behalf. And guess what, Chris? Who are the most underpaid people on the planet, maybe besides teachers? Writers, right? So you can get journalists, writers.
Yeah, journalists, writers. Yep. That's a great pro tip. Dustin, try the audio again, man. We have the article. Jimmy, that's pretty cool how we can put the article there in Blab. People can click on that now to read about Dustin. Dustin, are you with us? All right. Third time is not the charm. We're going to follow up. We have the full interview with Dustin here. If he keeps trying, we'll keep trying. But Jimmy, I wanted to give one more pro tip, because once your blog is cranking, if you're Judy, if you're Dustin, that what happens is the next pro tip actually becomes, screwed that up. The next pro tip actually becomes creating lists on Twitter and Facebook of local news organizations and local writers that have a column. And every time you publish something really interesting, like I went to Facebook, this is a huge hack, and we'll give a huge pro tip here because we couldn't get Dustin on. When you manage a Facebook business page, Facebook is now making it public what your response time is and your percentage of responses. So all these little social media managers and all these little people that manage Facebook pages at these companies, they are now almost required, Jimmy, to respond to those things and respond quick. So instead of trying to go through like press at the Philadelphia Inquirer, .com, or instead of trying to go through a traditional email channel, if you send a message to their Facebook page, I actually did this. 10 companies, huge companies, said, hey, I featured you in my book. Would you like to chat? 10 for 10, Jimmy. They all responded. So quick pro tip is if you need to get in touch with the media, a journalist, a company that you respect, whatever that may be, go to the Facebook page of that company and send it a message, and you're going to get a response more times than not. The water cooler airs every single week, you guys. We have a lot more tips, but we're out of time. Jay Thompson, thank you for coming on from Zillow. Dustin, thank you for the inspiration for the show, even though we couldn't get you logged on. If you're enjoying the show, you can go to YouTube, you can subscribe on Blab, or you can subscribe on iTunes. Just search Curator. You can also go to curator.com and go to the menu and click subscribe and give us your email. We send alerts every time we go on the air. Jimmy, awesome show, man. I'm loving the new format. We're going to hop on Twitter, answer questions if people have it. But cheers, the water cooler is back. Thank you guys for tuning in.